We had a marquee matchup in Winnipeg, a rock fight in LA, a ton of goals scored in Buffalo, and the Wild looking really good. Details coming up on this edition of Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hey, hockey fans, welcome to Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, your teams every day. Thanks for making Locked On NHL Game Night your place to get a recap of the night in the NHL. During the regular season and the playoffs, we are available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, an LA Kings fan on the West Coast. He is Shukri Wrights, a Boston Bruins fan on the East Coast. Together, we're here to get you caught up on all the goals, saves, big moments, and stories from an interesting night in the NHL with a big assist for some of our Locked On local experts. Shu, just 4 games in the NHL on Friday night, but we had a lot happening in those 4 games.
Just sometimes it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. And there was plenty of quality hockey abound. So let's dive into it like we're about to dive into a Thanksgiving feast in less than a week or so.
Well, let's start with this. Things have been very, very tight in the standings in both the East and the West. So coming into Friday night, 6 teams in the East had 24 points. That included the third place team in the Atlantic, both the wildcard teams, and 2 teams that were out of the playoff picture coming into the night. And that included 2 teams in action tonight, the Bruins and the Penguins. In the West, we had 2 teams entering the night with 25 points. 3 other teams had 24 points, including 3 teams in action tonight, Kings, Blackhawks, and Wild. And when it was all said and done, there would be a lot of movement in the standings, which is intriguing because it is so tight right now. On a night-to-night basis, you're seeing teams do some crazy things when it comes to the standings, including one that is a little bit mind-blowing, but we'll get to that in just a moment. We're going to start, though, with the matchup of the night. That was in Winnipeg, where the Jets were taking on the Hurricanes. Carolina coming to this game, top team in the East with 28 points, taking on last year's top team in the NHL, the Winnipeg Jets, who won the President's Trophy last year. However, no Connor Hellebuyck in this one, and he's going to be out for a while, 4 to 6 weeks. The reigning Hart Trophy and Vezina winner, arthroscopic knee surgery. So the Jets would not have their big goaltender in this one. How would this affect the outcome? Hard to say, but in the end, the Jets do not win without Connor Hellebuyck. It's Carolina gets the 4-3 victory. Let's start it off with a report from one of our local experts, the host of Locked On Carolina Hurricanes, and that is Zach Martin.
The Carolina Hurricanes extend their point streak to 5 games after defeating the Winnipeg Jets 4-3. What just a gutsy win. Just a game where you can feel good as the Carolina Hurricanes to push the road trip to 2-0-1 in the first 3 games. Jordan Staal, 2 goals in the game. First one came 16 seconds in. It is the 3rd quickest in franchise history since relocation to score basically that quick to start a game. Seth Jarvis scores in his hometown. Keeps the ball rolling there for his 11th on the year. Andrei Svechnikov with a power play goal. And Nikolai Ehlers gets an assist in his first game back against Winnipeg. Now the next game is against Buffalo on Sunday to complete the road trip. But right now the Hurricanes are 14-5-2 and still keeping that top spot in the Metropolitan Division.
All right, and thanks to Zach Martin for that report. Yeah, Carolina, obviously, a lot of people thought they would be one of the top teams in the East, and so far that is one of the things that's actually turned out to be correct so far. But as he mentioned, Jordan Staal, a couple of big goals, one of the oldest players in the NHL, still getting it done. Seth Jarvis, shorthanded goal as he gets his 11th of the season. And Brandon Bussey in net for Carolina, making a stand-up, 3 goals on 27 shots. Carolina is doing something a little unique, at least for now. They're carrying 3 goalies with Bussey, Frederik Andersen, and Pyotr Kochetkov, which is not something you see very often, but they're going with it for now, and everything's kind of working for them. So I guess hard to blame them with the results. But Carolina now 14-5-2. They lead the Eastern Conference with 30 points. Only other team with more points in the NHL than the Hurricanes, Colorado Avalanche.
You can call this Jordan rules. And if you are aware,
I'll let you do that.
I was hoping you would catch on to it quickly, Eddie, and you did.
Yeah.
So I'm giving you credit there. Jordan rules. And you know what? It's actually appropriate if you really think about it. Because Jordan Stahl, he scored the 2 goals in this game. But what I really look at in terms of the Carolina side of things and their win is the fact that it was Brandon Bussey who stole the show in net for the Carolina Hurricanes, in which that, and I think you really put it beautifully and succinctly, it's not often you see an NHL team carry 3 goaltenders at once. Typically 2. That's the norm. You don't see 3. And in this case, it's better to be prepared than sorry, I suppose. And in this case, tonight, the Carolina Hurricanes, as they typically are, they were prepared. But also, one thing that really did stand out to me with Carolina playing on the road, they played a typical style of hockey in which that Carolina, they absolutely were emphatic on playing a defensive style of game, knowing that Winnipeg has the firepower that they have on the other side, and they do. So you got to give them credit there, but then also like Seth Jarvis, no surprise, and Andrei Svechnikov, no surprise, scoring in this game. But then with to see that the offensive contribution that Keandre Miller, who continues to show exactly just how critical of an offseason move the Hurricanes made in signing Keandre Miller. He had 2 assists in tonight's game as well. There was a lot to really like from the Carolina side of things, and ultimately, I thought I thought it was a game in which that the Carolina Hurricanes ultimately took advantage of some miscues, including like a bad line change that they took advantage of, and a weird turnover that ends up in the back of their own net as well.
Winnipeg Jets obviously coming up short in this one without Connor Hellebuck. Let's check in with their host, the host of Locked On Winnipeg Jets, and that is Harrison Lee.
Jets are now figuring out what life without Hellebuck looks after a game against Carolina. And you know what? It wasn't so bad. The Jets played one of their strongest 5v5 games against a team that considers itself a cup contender. A couple of major mistakes ended up deciding the outcome, but I thought Winnipeg can be proud of how they played. Harrison Lee from Locked On Winnipeg Jets here, coming to you live after the game. It was a very good effort from the Jets. I thought, a couple of big mistakes, maybe on one of the power plays and right at the start of the game made the difference. But Comrie and Winnipeg as a whole, I thought played pretty well. Honestly, they probably deserved at least a point out of this game. A shame that, unfortunately, Ehlers and his return ended up spoiling a Jets victory. But you know what? If you're looking at the stretch and you were a little bit worried about it, this game probably makes you feel at least a little bit better of life without Hellebuck for the next 4 to 6 weeks. We'll follow along with you all the way. Thanks for listening. See you then, and have a great night.
All right, and thanks to Harrison Lee for that report. So, Gabe Vilardi, a couple of goals in this one for Winnipeg, numbers 7 and 8 for him to provide some of the offense. And as he mentioned, Eric Comrie at the moment is the man in the spotlight for Winnipeg. He'll have 4 goals on 28 shots. I don't know that he was okay in this one. I don't certainly circle him and say he's the reason why Carolina came up short in this one. But as I said, he's clearly the guy in the spotlight going forward. We'll see how he can handle it. He's never had the spotlight like this before.
It'll be interesting to see how he handles it. But first test tonight, the East leading Carolina Hurricanes. I thought that he performed admirably. And he certainly was not the reason why Winnipeg lost. But I do think that ultimately for Winnipeg, sometimes you could put a good foot forward. There wasn't their best foot forward and still come away empty. And that was certainly the case tonight, in which that the way I look at it is once Josh Morrissey tied it up at 1-1, and I thought that it was pretty much like the Hurricanes said, you know what? We're going to try to up the ante. And for a little bit, the Winnipeg Jets, they were able to still maintain their stranglehold in terms of the momentum Velarde scoring on the power play that gave the Jets a 2-1 lead in this one. But then after that, it was pretty much like a hurricane, hurricane. Like pretty much like from that point on in the game.
All right, if you're watching on YouTube, Shoes wearing his Bruins jersey. I got my Kings hat on. It was Kings versus Bruins in Los Angeles. We'll get into it next here on Locked On NHL Game Night. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether they're 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have a full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch's built for people with busy lives. If you've been putting off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, use clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can maximize investments, increase your savings rate, easily review finances with your partner and your financial advisor, and keep a clear view of your financial health week to week and long term. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with the code LOCKEDONNHL. All right, up next we had the Bruins in Los Angeles to take on the Kings. LA with just one home win so far on the season. They were coming off, though, a road trip where they went 4-1-1, hoping to carry some of that momentum into this matchup against the Bruins. Both these teams coming into the night holding down wild card spots. First period, no goals. Second period, no goals. Third period, Morgan Geekie, who's having a ridiculous year, gets his 15th of the year, and I kind of thought that was going to be it because it was so difficult to score goals. Once somebody got one, you thought that was it. But no, the LA Kings actually came back. Joel Armia with a shorthanded goal, his 5th of the year, his 3rd shorthanded goal of the season. And the game would go to overtime. In the OT, though, Morgan Geekie strikes again with his 16th goal of the season. He is tied with Nathan McKinnon for the NHL goal-scoring lead. Obviously, both goaltenders were very good in this one. Jeremy Swayman allowed 1 goal on 32 shots. Darcy Kemper for LA, 2 goals allowed on 26 shots. So a tough loss for Kemper and the Kings. Nice win for your Bruins as they continue to defy expectations, which were not very high for the Bruins this year. As a matter of fact, with that win, your Boston Bruins are leading the Atlantic Division with 26 points. They've been there before earlier this year. Kind of slid a little bit. Now they're back. But this one was at times a little bit hard to watch. I thought it was very, very hard fought. I thought both teams were going at it as hard as they could. But obviously not a lot of scoring. A lot of, there were some solid saves made in this one, but not a lot of wide open hockey. Everything was a grind. It was dump it in, chase it, try and dig it out of the corners, getting some shots here and there. But it was certainly hard fought, and the Bruins in the end, thanks to Morgan Geekie, get a nice victory.
I'm not going to gloat. This is not the show all the time. No, I'm not going to. But honestly, but Eddie, this game lived up to the billing, not because the Bruins won. I knew going into this game 2 things. Number 1, it was going to be a very tight game. The Kings, they play a sound defensive type of game, and they do. That's number 1. Number 2, I thought they was going to come down to goaltending, which actually did happen, because the first 40 minutes of this game, it was an indication of everything that I thought that was going to happen. It happened. Both teams had chances in the first period, but again, good, solid checking game, a 4-check game, as well as not a whole lot of time and space on the ice, especially on the part of the Bruins, for them to be able to create scoring chances. And it came down to like winning those puck battles along the boards and being able to take advantage of opportunities if and when they were made, which didn't happen until the 3rd period. But I will say this though, Morgan Geekie, like basically being the scoring hero for the Boston Bruins tonight, it didn't surprise me, considering that ever since he arrived in Boston, he has become one of the underrated goal scorers in the league. And this year, what you are seeing with Marque and Geekie in particular is the fact that offensively, it's not always just David Pastrnak. It's also Geekie, who has been absolutely dynamite offensively, 16 goals now this season. And then on top of that, David Pastrnak, who got the primary assist on the game-winning goal, with Zadorov getting the secondary assist on the second goal. But then ultimately, Jeremy Swayman, he has also continued to play some really good hockey in between the pipes, and he's certainly, in my opinion, like definitely did a tremendous job in this one tonight for the Boston Bruins.
I'm saying this mostly with tongue in cheek, but if Morgan Geekie were a baseball player, I think I'd be calling for a drug test. I mean, this guy, 69 games with Seattle, he had 9 goals. Then he joins Boston. He played 76 games. He had 17. Last year, he scores 33 goals, and he's on pace right now for like 52 or something ridiculous. Yeah. But he is, whatever he has found, whatever he has changed, whether it's just finding a home with Boston or whatever, he is, I give him all the credit in the world, because he has turned himself into just a guy to one of the top goal scorers in the NHL. And I mean, he had 33 last year. He's going to eclipse that, I would think, this year, barring any kind of injury. So whatever he's doing, kudos to him. I will say for the LA Kings, a couple of things continuing that are troubling for the Kings. Number one, they still can't get it done at home. They still only have one home win this year, 1-4-3 now on home ice, when they were the best home team in the NHL last year. It doesn't make any sense. And their power play continues to be awful. They were 0-for-5 in this game, and they had a 2-man advantage in the first period for over a minute that they couldn't take advantage of. So those are two things going forward that are either going to be a reason why the Kings don't have success ultimately, or those are two things that are going to need to be corrected and will be a reason for why the Kings are able to have success, the kind of success that they want. Because so far, home ice is not an advantage, and the power play has no power for the LA Kings.
You know, it's funny. The Kings are one of two teams in the NHL where it has been rather baffling as to why they cannot have success at home. And they remind me of the New York Rangers out east. They do. Which, I'm not trying to be funny, but at the same time, it's like tonight you had the opportunities in which that you go 0-for-5 on the power play. I mean, the Bruins, they weren't any better either on the man advantage. They were 0-for-2 in this one. But at the same time, it's like, why suddenly the home ice struggles this year, which is really like inexplicable. Like, because if you think about it, the Kings, they dominated the faceoff in this one. The Bruins did not. In fact, the Bruins got smoked by the Kings in the faceoff circle. The faceoffs were won by the Kings 61%, just under 62%, to the Bruins like 38%. Which tells me, even by, just forget the numbers, but just from the game itself, they should have in fact won those puck possession battles. But yet, for some reason, and you could better speak on it more than I could, you being a Kings fan, that it just is not adding up to the success that the Kings think that they should be having at home.
Yeah, I can't explain it. Just like I couldn't explain why they were so great at home and not good on the road last year. Yeah. I can't explain why the reverse has happened this year. 10th game for the Kings that has gone beyond regulation so far this season. They're 4-2-4 in those 10 games. The Sabres got called out by their head coach. Did they respond? And the Wild are looking very strong. We'll check in on both those teams next here on Locked On NHL Game Night. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. When it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms or in-person appointments. It prescribed your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit Rugiet.com, Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL, and you will get 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet, Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL. And don't forget to use the code LockedOnNHL so they know that we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. And the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game, it doesn't really matter. You can place live bets on anything at any time during the game, beginning, middle, stretch run, whatever you want. And you can bet on just about anything, like which player will score the next bucket, how many points a player is going to score in the quarter, in the half, for the game. And you can combine your live bets into a same game parlay. Player points, over-unders, who's going to win. You combine it all together, and if they hit, you get a bigger payout. You want to bet on your favorite team? That's great. You can bet on any team you want, though. And if the game turns out to be a stinker, you can still make it more interesting by placing a wager or two or three on the point totals, the over-unders, regardless if the game's a buzzer beater or a 20-point blowout. FanDuel makes every game exciting, no matter the outcome. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's right. You get $300 in bonus bets by just hitting your first $5 bet. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, we've got two more games to recap, including the Penguins hosting the Wild. And this one was all Minnesota as they roll in Pittsburgh over the Penguins by a score of 5-0. Let us check in with our local expert, the host of Locked On Minnesota Wild, and that is Seth Topol.
Go ahead and try to stop Matt Boldy. I dare you. After a 2-goal performance against the Pittsburgh Penguins, Boldy's up to 13 goals in the first 22 games of the season. He's tied for 5th in the entire NHL in goals. He is 18th in the league in points, just behind Kirill Kaprizov, who is 15th in the league, by the way. Boldy is shooting more often. He's shooting more accurately. He is shooting harder than he has at any point previously throughout his career. It looks like the plane is leaving the runway as far as a Matt Boldy breakout season goes, and I am fully here for it. He torched the Penguins, decimated the Penguins all night long, left nothing in his wreckage, and it looks like we are right on the doorstep of a 50-goal campaign for Matt Boldy. For more on Matt Boldy and the Minnesota Wild, make sure you follow Locked On Wild wherever you listen to your podcasts.
All right, thanks, Seth Topol, for that report. Matt Boldy, as he mentioned, 2 goals, numbers 12 and 13 on the season. He's got 6 goals and 4 assists in his last 6 games. Gets a little bit overshadowed because Kirill Kaprizov, who had his 12th goal in this one, but Matt Boldy is, if he's not, Kirill Kaprizov, if he's not, the number one superhero, he is a hell of a sidekick. He is right there.
Yeah.
He's the 1B to Kaprizov's 1A. And he might get overshadowed a little bit, but he is one hell of a hockey player. And the Minnesota Wild, by the way, are playing really well right now. They really enjoy November. They're 8-1-1 this month. They've won 6 of 7, and they have moved into one of the top 3 spots in the Central Division. 11-7-4 are the Minnesota Wild right now.
It didn't feel that long ago that we were worried about the Minnesota Wild on this podcast, especially the slow start that they gotten off to in October. But it's been very kind in the month of November. And Matt Boldy certainly plays a big reason as to why. 10 points in a 6-game point streak, 6 goals and 4 assists, including 2 goals tonight and an assist as part of a 3-point performance for Matt Boldy. And I think you put it very succinctly in terms of him being a perfect 1B to Kirill Kaprizov, in which that offensively like he is really developing into his own. Like you knew the offensive talent was there for Matt Boldy when he first came into the league, but this year in particular, like he really has like grown into his own so far with 25 points in 22 games played so far this season. And if you are a Wild fan, this is a welcome sight for you in terms of like seeing his development as he continues to mature along for the 24-year-old. And of course, I mean, Kirill Kaprizov also scored, and Joel Eriksson Ek also contributed a goal in this one as well. So the Minnesota Wild, they're playing terrific hockey right now. Matt Boldy, he is on fire during this 6-game point streak as well, and all is well in the state of hockey.
And not to be forgotten, goaltender Philip Gustafsson, 19 save shutout in this one, 13th of his career, and maybe a little bit motivated by Jesper Wallstedt, who's come on late and has looked great. And Gustafsson's like, hey, I better start playing well here. I might not get the net very often. So a healthy competition maybe between the two goaltenders in Minnesota. If you can push each other and get each other to play well, that's certainly not a bad thing. On the flip side, a terrible game for Pittsburgh. They were down 4-0 in this one, the second period. Their head coach, Dan Muse, their first-year head coach, calls a timeout. He pulls the goaltender, Artur Shilovs. He puts in the rookie, Sergei Murashev, trying to send a message. It was not received. Although they only allowed one more goal after that, it didn't jumpstart their offense at all, and they get shut out in this one. Pittsburgh surprised a lot of people early on. Maybe, though, they're coming back down to earth. They have lost 6 of their last 9.
I mean, I think they certainly are coming back down to earth in more ways than one, in which that they did not look good at all tonight. I mean, there was nothing that went their way. Like, it was bad goaltending from Artur Silas. He did not play well. Murashov was, he was better in relief, making 10 saves, but he did allow that one goal. But it was really a little bit of everything that did not go well for the Penguins tonight, whether if it was goaltending, whether if offensively, they just did not get anything going. They just kind of spotted in place. They were outshot like 9-3 in that third period. Excuse me. And they didn't get a second shot on goal until 16:27 of the third, which to me was like, man, like, has anybody seen like the Pittsburgh Penguins in terms of shots in terms of anything really? So it was just a flat out a bad night for the Penguins, no matter how you slice and dice it.
And our final game was in Buffalo, where the Sabres are taking on the Blackhawks. Chicago playing on back-to-back nights. And Buffalo, the worst team in the East, was coming off an embarrassing 6-2 home loss to the worst team in the NHL. That was the Calgary Flames. Head coach Lindy Ruff called the team out. And at least for one game, it appears that they received the message as they embarrassed Chicago 9-3. 3 goals in the first, 3 goals in the second, 3 more goals in the third for Buffalo. Josh Doan had a pair of them, numbers 6 and 7. They got him from the Utah Mammoth and that JJ Peterka deal, and he has certainly seemed to have found a home as well. Jason Zucker was back from injury, scored his 5th of the season, and Tage Thompson gets his 11th for the Buffalo Sabres. They're still, I mean, look, there's a long hill to climb for the Buffalo Sabres, but when you have a really bad game at home against a bad team and you embarrass themselves, you got to come back in that next game and at least show some heart, some fire, some grit, and they did that. Absolutely. At least for this one game.
And they did. And, which offense looked better in Buffalo these last 24 hours, the Bills or the Sabres? Clearly the Sabres. And if anything else, like the Sabres, like they came out with what the old saying, with their hair on fire, and offensively they were clicking. And like Alex Tuck, 4 assists on the night. My goodness, Josh Doan, the 2 goals as well, and then also as well as not to be forgotten in the equation, I thought that that the Luukkonen, like he had a solid game in net, but man, like this was a great response type of game for the Buffalo Sabres, coming off an embarrassing loss the game before as well.
So Chicago will now have to respond in their next game from this loss. However, they're playing Colorado in their next game, so Good luck with
Good
that. Tyler Bertuzzi did have 2 goals for Chicago in the loss numbers 11 and 12. And I did think it was amusing that early in the first period, Connor Bedard was called for a tripping penalty. He put his head down and he skated right to the penalty box. Didn't look at the referee, didn't say a word after the previous game where he got that big penalty in the third period and it cost his team. So lesson learned for Connor Bedard. Hey, if you want complete coverage of your favorite NHL team, find the Locked On NHL Team podcast and YouTube show for your team. Locked On NHL Game Night is here for you every night, covering every game until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. We're on YouTube and wherever you find your podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you are watching on YouTube, and post your thoughts on anything that happened in tonight's action in the comments section. That is going to do it for this episode of Locked On NHL Game Night. For Shukri Wrights, I'm Eddie Garcia. Thanks for listening and watching Locked On NHL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.